Well, thank you, Marcy, for that wonderful introduction. And I think we need to give her a round of applause for what she's doing with Scripps Presents in general. Just amazing. I love the feel of a room. And thank you, all of you, for being here. I also need to thank Tin House for arranging this preview at Scripps, since I teach here, and this is my academic home. So what I'll do is give you a little sense of what Village Weavers is about, and read from the novel for about a half hour, maybe a little less than a half hour, and then we'll open up for Q&A, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So Village Weavers is a much more intimate novel than my last novel, which was on the 2010 earthquake, told in 10 voices. This one is told in 2 voices of 2 women born in Haiti. So you meet them in their 60s, reconnecting, but reminiscing about their childhood in Haiti, in Port-au-Prince, and a devastating family secret that kept them apart over many years. And so the novel will take you from Port-au-Prince to Paris, to the Dominican Republic, and other parts of the United States like Ohio and Florida. And it was inspired by the passing away of my mother, actually, in 2019, and all of her sibling group within 2 to 3 years, as well as half-siblings. And what that brought me to think about was all of the wealth of information, especially about Haiti, that has been lost with that generation just disappearing. So people in their 90s and 80s, born in the 20s and the 30s in Haiti, but also who participated in life all over the world. And so for those of you who know a little bit about Haiti in the news today, and you know, are seeing from afar how far it has slid, you know, as a country, often it's very difficult to imagine that this was it is still a very beautiful place, but was once a place that drew from all over the world, and that with the dispersion of Haitians outside of the country, Haitians have also participated in global life in ways that sometimes is not imagined. I'm going to start with a short piece which gives you a sense of why the book is called Village Weavers. This does speak to how these 2 women, Simone and Gertrude, nicknamed Cece and Gertie, create a village, you know, in their lives, and how villages are weaved through the women of Haiti. But it's also a bird. So I'm just going to read you this short section, which gives you a little sense of what the village weaver is, and maybe a hint as the family secret between these 2 girls. In Haiti, the village weaver is known as Madame Sarah, which is also the name for market women, because it talks all day long, as market women are said to, hovering over their wares under the sweltering Caribbean sun. Since her grandmother was taciturn, someone who didn't believe in idle talk, and who was stern in the home she kept, where Cece, Margie, and their mother lived with her, Simone doesn't really think of market in this way, as loose and free with their banter, though it is true that some of the women talk a lot and pass gossip back and forth between their stalls when the workday grows long and the heat so stifling that it is difficult to breathe. It is true that the male birds' black-hooded heads extend to their chests, like the kerchiefs the women wear to shelter themselves, knotted behind their necks above the shoulders, while the female birds, olive yellow, make her think of Oshun, the maternal river goddess. The birds never bothered Cece. They were beautiful creatures that wove striking nests from grassy strips that hung gourd-like from the fronds of palms. They were social, gathering to make colonies that filled the air with cacophony. The males made as many nests as they could in a season, moving to a new nest as soon as a mate started to incubate her eggs so that they could have multiple nests at one time. Eventually, after the weavers had had their brood, the nests dried out, leaving the palm trees on which they hung looking wistfully like abandoned tropical Christmas trees. Simone often wondered if the birds were called Madame Sarah, not just because of their constant chirping, but because of the dexterity of their weaving. She observed when she accompanied her grandmother to the Marché de Fer, the iron market in the heart of Port-au-Prince, but some of the market women busied themselves making baskets for sale from dried, stripped fronds, as dexterous as the birds, their banter back and forth across the winding paths through the market, punctuating the air with song. So that's the hint there as to what that male village weaver might be doing and how these girls might have come to be in Port-au-Prince. I'm going to read next a section from Gertie and a section from CC. And because we're at a college, I thought I would read from when they're in their 20s as opposed to other parts of their lives. But the story covers them from their meeting at age 7 to meeting again in middle age in their 40s to final meeting in their 60s. But I'm going to read from sections in their 20s. And part of what the connection that they have, the family secret, is also a connection to the Dominican Republic. So the novel also explores the tensions between Haiti and the Dominican Republic, which are very difficult and have become more complicated since 2013 and the DR's decision to denationalize Dominicans of Haitian descent in that country going back to 1929. So keep that in mind. And so they have a very different relationship to that other side, but they are related to the Dominican side. Cece is of a lower class background. She will not really go to the Dominican Republic, but Gertie goes back and forth. She's from a more wealthy background. And I'm going to read from when she first meets her to-be husband, Manuel. And I think that's all you need to know for this section. But colorism is part of the issue, and Gertie in her own family is darker than her siblings and suffers for this. Santo Domingo, 1952. When Gertie meets Manuel, it is not love at first sight. Their meeting is a case of mistaken identity that should have kept them apart. The fact that it doesn't owing more, perhaps, to Manuel's ability to navigate the preconceptions that are foisted upon him than to Gertie's ability to exercise tact and good judgment. When they meet, she is turning 18 and Manuel is in his mid-20s. Before she knows his name, she sees him standing outside the wooden cabana where the snorkeling equipment is kept. The cabana is stationed between the resort's pool and a walkway that leads to an inlet bordered by large stones that have been moved there from the shore so that guests can swim protected from the currents, unworried about being assailed by ocean waves, wind, barracudas, or even errant sharks. It is early morning, and Gertie is shown the way by a hotel clerk who assumes that this is what she's looking for since she came down to the lobby dressed in a one-piece swimsuit and a sheer cover-up that can double as a beach throw. Her Spanish is not strong, despite the high school classes she had at the French international boarding school she attended on this side of the island. The hotel clerk, a light-skinned man with close cropped hair and a thin mustache, gestures towards the cabana by the pool and tells her to ask El Haitiano for the snorkeling equipment. Does he have a name? Gertie asks. El Haitiano, the man repeats, gesturing brusquely towards the cabana. By this, Gertie understands, he means that she should look for a dark-skinned man, a darker-skinned man than he, a black man. She nods, but wishes she'd gotten a name. When she sees Manuel tanned to a violet-brown color that reminds Gertie of the purple martins that migrate to the islands in winter on their way to warmer climes in South America, he is standing bare-chested by the cabana wearing thigh-length shorts. Seeing no one else around, Gertie assumes that Manuel is the cabana boy the clerk told her to look for, and at first, it doesn't seem that she's made an error. Is this where I get the snorkeling stuff? She asks him as he swipes and loose from his bare, She asks him as he swipes sand loose from his bare feet and from the tops of his shoulders. He is running water from a spigot installed at the side of the cabana and spraying his feet. What was that? He asks back, looking at her from over his shoulder. The equipment, she repeats, then points to the bay beyond the pool. For snorkeling. Sure, he mumbles. You can get back here. Somebody will help you. Aren't you supposed to help me? He continues to spray the water over his feet, the backs of his legs, which she notes are pleasantly muscular, his thighs, then over the rounded back of his shoulders. He closes his eyes and brings the water over his head, lets it pour down. He's breathtaking, Gertie thinks, all sinew, and not at all self-conscious. She fails to register that this lack of self-consciousness should tip her off to the fact that he is of a different class than she expected. Manuel notices Gertie out of the corner of his eye, that she has not budged, and puts the hose down, closing the spigot. She notices that he has strings of beaded bracelets on both wrists. Several are black and red, one is white. Another string has green beads alternating with red ones. Are you talking to me, mujer? He asks her. Gertie becomes tongue-tied. Oh, he smiles wryly. Oh, I see. You think I work here. Well, Gertie says self-consciously, don't you? Manuel shakes his head, grabs a towel from atop the cabana's counter and starts to wipe away the water from his glistening body. You're looking for snorkeling equipment? She nods. I don't work here, but we can leave a note for the attendant and I can give you what I just returned. He points to a pile of fins, snorkel, and mask. I just came in from the bay. Just say that you're returning the equipment for room 32. Oh, okay, Gertie, embarrassed, accepts the exchange, writes a note on a pad of paper left on the counter with a pencil, and wonders who then is El Haitiano. But really, why did you think I was the cabana boy? He asks, peering at her from beneath the towel he draws over his head to dry his hair by rubbing across loose pepper-black curls vigorously. Just a mistake. The clerk just pointed me down this way and you assume, Gertie puts up a hand, it was just an honest mistake. Okay, he puts out a hand. My name's Manuel. You? Gertrude, Gertie says. Alcindor. She reaches out. Good to meet you, Gertrude Alcindor. Last name's Puello. They shake hands, and Manuel gathers the equipment he has just returned and hands it to Gertie in one swoop. Thanks, Gertie says, for the equipment. Sure, Manuel winks. Just don't lose it out there. I don't need to be getting more bills added to my room. I won't, Gertie responds seriously. You can trust me. Can I, Gertrude Alcindor? Gertie laughs nervously as she walks away with the equipment in hand. She should have asked first if he worked there, then asked for the equipment. Gertie tries to forget about her mistake and about meeting Manuel Puello as she takes off the wrap and leaves it on a chaise longue on the beach. She puts on the fins and mask, then wades into the shallow waters of the bay while fitting the breathing tube and mouth guard around her teeth, gripping around it with her mouth. Beneath the surface of the water, another world awaits her. And I'm going to skip what she finds in that underworld for those of you who will read the book. So she discovers a lot down there. Gertie turns to face the shore to see if anyone has seen her flailing. She's immediately self-conscious. There is no one there. She turns back around in the ocean, looks out onto the limitless horizon, and remembers that morning so long ago when her 7-year-old self sat on an old pier in Port-au-Prince looking out across the sea, as Cece's older sister Margie told them about the limitless futures before them, about the Simbi, which are water gods. Where are they now, Margie, Cece? Occasionally, she hears about them from the Lombardos, with whom Gertie's older sisters stay in touch. This is how families of a certain class operate on the island, an unspoken feature of social capital. Apparently, Cece continues to thrive in school, becoming great friends with Lou, the youngest Lombardo, whom Gertie hasn't kept up with as much since she was sent to finish high school in the DR. As Gertie bobs afloat on the water, she feels strong pangs of jealousy that she knows deep down she has no right to be feeling. The time they were all known to one another is long past, and Gertie should have moved on. She blinks away tears, convinces herself that the sting is occasioned by the salt water as she stirs herself back towards the shore. There she returns up the beach, dragging the flippers on the sand as if imitating the passage of an errant seal. She wishes that everything could begin again, but life isn't like that. She has lived long enough to know this deep in her bones. On the shore, Gertie flops down on the long chair where she left her wrap. She uses the folded towel left on it to dry herself off as she pulls off the flippers and drops them next to the headgear. She pulls on the wrap over her bathing suit and collapses back onto the chair, looking up at the blue above her, as expansive and all-encompassing as the sea has been, horizon all around her. She closes her eyes, overwhelmed by the limitlessness. She falls asleep again against the thought that she's returning to the life she knew before she was exiled by the sisters. It makes her feel that there might be a way back to the beginning of things, to before Papa died. What wakes Gertie from her wondering is the feeling that a cloud has moved across the sun, taking away its direct heat and light. She stirs against the shades in the humidity of the air surrounding her, wonders if rain is about to come, opens her eyes. Instead of clouds above her, she sees the shape of a person looming, blocking the light. "What is it?" she says spontaneously. "It's me," the shape says, "Cabana boy." Gertie sits up, moves into the sunlight so she can see who is there more clearly. She shields her eyes and squints. "Cabana boy? Room 32. She sees then who it is. "Pueyo? Si. Yes. I saw you having trouble out there. ¿Estás bien?" "You saw?" "Well, yes. I was just hanging out by the pool a bit after we saw each other, and I happened to glance out that way." He sweeps his hand outward toward the bay. "And you seem to be having a little trouble, so I just stuck around to see if you were okay. Sometimes things happen in the water. One sees things or feels things. It can be," he searches for the correct word, "surprising." So that's how they begin their affair, well, their love affair. So I am going to finish with a section which is in Cece's voice, and this will be when she actually meets her to-be spouse. Though it might not be who you expect from the reading, although that person is in the scene. And this will conclude the reading. It's a little longer, but hopefully, is everybody okay out there? Okay, you're good, okay. And what can I tell you about this? So we were in 52 with Gertie in the DR, and now we're in the early 60s, where Cece has had to leave the island because of the Duvalier regime. So before the novel takes you into that period where people had to flee the dictatorship, which starts in 56, 57 properly, there's a whole section which I'm not going to read from, but for me is one of the most beautiful parts of the novel, which is about the 40s, when there was an international expo in Haiti, which my paternal grandfather helped to build the buildings for, which brought people from all over the world, but from the United States, jazz greats like Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis, from Cuba, Celia Cruz, and also made stars of people from Haiti like Martha Jean-Claude, who eventually was exiled also to Cuba. And so when you meet Cece at this point, she has had to leave the island that she loves, and so the novel is also about people who've had to leave but wouldn't leave if they had someplace, if they could stay in their own countries. And it is also about the kinds of allegiances that people might create with others because they've had to leave. And who she finds here is the Lou that was mentioned in Gertie's section, Lou Lombardo, who's actually of Italian descent but also Haitian. So because there's a lot of different kinds of people in Haiti. So Lou is a lifelong friend to both of them, and she, goes to Paris, and Lou takes her in. When Cece finally wakes, it is to the sound of whispers. She hears the scraping of a knife against toast. She smells the butter being spread, melting into the pores of the bread. She hears Lou and a woman speaking French in low tones in the kitchen. She assumes it is Samia. There is a third voice with them, a male voice she can smell coffee to and imagines it is being poured out from a glass cafetière. It is early spring and there is a crispness in the air. The window above the bed is open and Cece can smell the redolent blooms beyond the apartment building, lilacs, roses, and the scent of pine trees. She closes her eyes to take it all in. There is a faraway hum of cars and bicycles going by, the chattering of pedestrians down below, the rapid chirping whistle of red-bellied robins hiding in the brush of tall trees, but it all seems quiet compared with the hustle and bustle of Port-au-Prince. There are no street hawkers, and Cece does not hear the distant short pops of gunfire, a sound that can be mistaken for a car backfiring or firecrackers being lit and thrown up into the air to burst. It all seems too quiet, so peaceful. She is in Paris, liberated, free to become whatever she chooses to be. She can find work with her business administration degree, a French degree. Tu crois qu'elle voudra venir? Do you think she'll want to come? Cece hears the woman she assumes is Samia say. Lou's answer is indecipherable. Okay, je te laisse expliquer. I'll let you explain everything, Samia says, answering Lou. The male voice chimes in, but Cece can't make out what it is saying. Cece readies herself to emerge from the guest room, slipping into the bathroom to take a shower first. When she steps out, the three are at opposite ends of the apartment, two poring over papers at a desk in the living room, and Lou sitting at the kitchen table where a breakfast setting has been left waiting for Cece. Samia smiles, redirecting her attention from the papers on the desk to Cece. Next to her is a slim man with sandy hair. He is dressed simply in jeans and a white t-shirt. He stands up first, extends a hand to her. His gray eyes search hers as he introduces himself. Je m'appelle Scott, he says. Je suis un ami de Lou et de Samia. He's supposed to have a fake American accent, but I don't know how to do that. So, his handshake is firm, his palm moist. Cece knows that his skin is smooth, soft, unlike her mother's and grandmother's hands, or the hands of the women who worked in the household where she was raised. Je suis un étudiant, I'm a student, he says, as if guessing her thoughts. Vous êtes américain? Cece musters. Votre français est impeccable. Your French is good. Confused, she turns to Samia, who has risen to her feet and is now bending across the desk to grasp Cece's shoulders to kiss her on both cheeks. The gesture is familiar, comforting. Je sais, Scott answers. When in Rome and all that, I'm here on my study abroad year and I met Samia through her brother at a seminar at one of the universities. I offered to help their efforts. Efforts? Cece asks, kissing Samia back on both cheeks. Enchantée, she says to her, returning her smile. They part and grasp each other's hands across the desk in a further gesture of welcome. Meeting Samia is like meeting another childhood friend. Cece is reminded vaguely of Odette, which is another part of a group from one of her children, of Gertie. Lou comes out of the kitchen to embrace her. Ah bon, vous vous êtes tous rencontrés? I see you've all met, she says. Oui, yes, Scott starts, then stops himself. He shoves his hands in his back pockets while Samia sits back in her chair, starts to move the papers around. I suppose I should explain what we're doing here, says Lou. Sit, Cece. I'll bring your breakfast out here and we can explain everything to you. For the next hour or so, Cece listens as Samia, Lou, and Scott describe in rapid-fire French how Algerians and other people on the African continent are fighting for their freedom. There is a left-leaning movement to articulate the possibilities of a future where former colonies can be free to govern themselves. Samia and her brother are French Algerians born to a middle-class family of mixed French and Algerian descent in occupied territory. Scott, who comes from a well-to-do family in the States, French classes in prep school, he adds to explain his facility with a language, and eagerly seeks out ways that he can rebel while not having to risk too much of himself, bankrolls for ventures, paying for the printing of posters, renting spaces for rallies, and providing bail money when things go south. Freedom is not without risks. Scott is just a dilettante, Samia says, waggling a pencil at him. Scott blushes. But I put my money where my mouth is. You sure do, Lou says, and we thank you for it. Sérieusement. Seriously, Scott provides what we need, Samia continues. Scott gesticulates as if airing his hands dry. Passe-partout, they laugh. Oh, être un homme, to be a man, Lou says. She lights up a cigarette. A wealthy white American, Samia adds pointedly. Oh, Cece says, bringing her coffee cup from her lips to the desk. She isn't sure if this was said as a joke or as an insult. She looks over at Scott. Coupable, guilty, he exclaims. That's why we love this guy, Lou says, swishing her smoke over the desk. Cece is wondering if she and Scott are together when Samia gets up from her chair to hug Scott from behind, resting her chin on his tousled hair. He reaches an arm behind her and closes his eyes. Samia and Scott? A threesome? Cece has heard of such things. With Lou, she thinks anything is possible. Lou bends toward her, frowning. Now that you're here, we want to know if you'll join the cause. These two are organizing a rally taking place later this week, and we need all the help we can get. Of course, Cece says, without thinking about what she might be getting into. Of course, you can count on me. She nods vigorously. Samia smiles at her from above Scott's head. Scott lets go of Samia. He seems to discern Cece's discomfort. Oh, your friend just got here, though. Maybe she needs time to understand what we're up to before she jumps in, and she needs to see the city. Samia steps back from Scott, sits back down in her chair. A glance passes between her and Lou. Lou smirks. Let me guess, you'd like to be her tour guide. Scott smiles. You have to admit that I'm good at it. The two women laugh and give each other a knowing look Cece cannot decipher. Has someone finally tamed Lou? Cece finishes her toast and coffee. Ready to see something? Scott asks. Now, Cece says. I just got up. Well, no time like the present. Decide what you're wearing and I'll take you out. We can leave these lovebirds to themselves. Scott, Lou interjects sharply. Je ne lui ai encore rien dit. I haven't told her yet. Scott looks confused. Oh, no? I thought you two went way back. Yes, Lou says, running the fingers of her free hand through her thick, short hair, wisps of which are jutting out in different directions coquettishly, but I haven't told her. She looks up at Scott, who is standing ready to head out into the streets. You know how things are. Abashed, Scott nods. Sorry, I just thought you two were tight, and his voice trails off. Maybe another time then, Simone. I'll take you out on the town without these two and acquaint you with this old body city. Scott picks up his things. As he kisses Samia goodbye, he whispers to her, don't worry, I'll be back to finish things up with you tomorrow. We're organized and this will make a difference. I'll make sure everyone knows about it. Samia hugs Scott tightly, then Scott waves at Lou, squeezes Cece's hand in goodbye and leaves the three behind. Well, now you know, Lou says. Know what? Cece asks, wanting Lou to spell things out for her. Samia says, maybe I'll hang out with Scott for a while. She opens the apartment door and yells out to Scott to wait for her. He is on the stairs, descending, and yells back that he will wait for her on the landing. Samia puts on her coat and is about to leave when she turns back, hugs Cece, then goes to Lou and plants a kiss on her mouth, tousles Lou's hair. Lou kisses Samia back, then pushes her way toward the door. Go, we'll see you later. Lou brings out a pitcher of lemonade from the kitchen and gestures Cece back towards the living room. Samia made this for you yesterday, she says. Let me get ice cubes for us. She leaves for the kitchen and returns with 2 glasses half filled with ice. She found limes at the market that reminded her of home. She thought, you would like this. Cece reaches for the glasses and sets them on the low table in front of a couch. That was kind of her. I love lemonade, she says, as she thinks of the days of studying together with jus corosol or bitter passion fruit juice made sweet with cane juice or sugar. I feel at home already, she adds, but Cece is somewhat bewildered. What is she to make of this gesture of Samia's? Is she to accept it as a welcome or as a kind of warning that she is in Samia's home, not hers? It is a kind gesture, she tells herself, nothing that should make her feel threatened. And yet there is something of that feeling flowing through her as Lou pours the lemonade from the pitcher into the glasses with a distant look in her eye, as if the filling of the tumblers is ceremonial, a testament to something between her and Samia that is deeper than what might linger between them, her and Cece, after all this time. They sit on cushions strewn on the floor, their backs against the bottom of a couch. They are suddenly quiet. Despite the many letters they've exchanged over the last few years, picking up in person leaves Cece tongue-tied. Lou restarts the conversation. I think about Odette a lot, but it could have been any of us disappeared like that. Cece takes a sip of her lemonade and ponders Lou's statement. I don't know, Lou. I think about it all the time. Why her? Why not any of us? And what did she do? She was so unassuming. Didn't you hear? What? It was because she refused the advances of a new section chief in the area where her parents' farm was. Really? I didn't hear this, but we didn't stay as close as we were in school after Margie came back. I heard it from Gertie. From Gertie? Cece is surprised. Lou continues, her parents refused the man and he burned down part of their farm. That was apparently a warning, but they didn't think much of it and kept on with their work. Next thing they knew, Odette was gone, disappeared. I hadn't heard all that, just that the parents never found her body or never got it back. I hadn't heard all those details. Yes, Lou says, things are that bad. It's hard to imagine, isn't it, Cece steps around the mention of Gertie, that just a few years ago the whole world was coming to us to see the expo, and now we're all dispersed all over that same world. It's a shame, is what it is, Lou declares. We'll never see those days again. It was such a great time. Things were never the same after. Cece pauses. Should she tell Lou the truth of it now? Should she wait? She decides against telling the whole truth. After the expo, I mean, but there's hope somewhere, if not for us, for others. Is there? Isn't there? Isn't it why you're doing this work with Samia? Because you have a hope for better? Lou shrugs, takes a sip of her lemonade. You know what would make things better? Rum, they both say at the same time, and explode into laughter. Lou gets up to find this bottle she keeps stored away in one of the kitchen cabinets. The real stuff, she says, Haitian rum. She taps the bottle with a forefinger, then hands it over to Cece. Help yourself, but don't tell Samia we desecrated her offering. Cece laughs and pours herself a couple of ounces of the amber liquid. I won't. But tell me, is Scott your boyfriend? Or is it the two of them? Cece's voice trails off. She doesn't feel equipped to talk about Samia directly. Scott, Lou scoffs. Scott doesn't have a revolutionary bone in his body. And you know I need fire in my life. She takes the bottle of rum from the table and pours herself a finger into her lemonade. Scott was attached to Samia when I met her. They were kind of a package. You know how that goes. She rolls her eyes. You mean, Cece says, the two of them are? Oh no, God no, Lou thinks for a moment. Well, to tell the truth, I think Scott has a huge crush on her, but they're just friends. She takes another swig of her drink, then lights another cigarette. Okay if I light up? You've already done it. I have, haven't I? Lou says. Sorry, force of old habit. Samia hates it. I'm trying to quit. We can go in the kitchen and I can sit next to an open window. They move back into the kitchen with their drinks in hand and sit at the table. Cece is grateful for the hard back of a chair holding her up. She needs the feeling of something tangible. Samia est ma femme, Lou says firmly, with a light edge to her voice as if to push Cece back before she puts up any resistance. She's my girlfriend, she repeats, more resolutely, taking another puff from her cigarette, letting out the smoke, and looking straight into Cece's eyes across the haze. Cece feels a tug in her belly. She isn't sure if it is fear or desire. Lou, though older, looks the same to her as she always did, cool, self-assured, the kind of woman she wants to be and might never become. Curiously, knowing the nature of Lou and Samia's relationship appeases her. Instead of feeling jealousy, she is happy for Lou. How did the two of you meet? Cece asks. My sister, Chiara. She came here after we moved back to Italy. I followed her. She can practice law here. She works for a private firm, but she also volunteers, helping people who need it with consulting services, immigrants mostly. She married this really wealthy guy in politics. Sometimes he helps her out with harder cases. Samia's brother was jailed for, she temporizes, choosing her words carefully, sedition. For what? Sedition, against the French state. Lou puts out the stub of her cigarette and shakes another out of her pack. You don't smoke cigars anymore? Cece asks, pointing to the pack. Lou shrugs, smiles. You remember everything, don't you? Cece blushes, looks away. I'll stop there.